and welcome to Live at 5. Well, today we're going to talk about why coaching for carers is much needed.
It is, and funny enough, it's a subject that I, as many of you know, have experienced. I was a carer for my mum during her journey through cancer and a brain tumour, and also my sister was a carer for her son who went through cancer, as well as many other treatments and illnesses in that process. And caring is something that we are not trained for. You don't get an instruction manual. You are thrown into the realms of caring with very little support. But we're joined by an amazing lady called Kaddy Thomas, who runs an organisation called the Carers Collective. Kaddy, welcome to the show. It's lovely to have you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for coming into the studio.
So, tell us a little bit about the Carers Collective and what's the objective of it? Where are you trying to take this organisation? What are you trying to do with it?
So, I set up Carers Collective as a result of being a carer myself. I'm a full-time carer, and I'm also a full-time care manager to Elijah, who's my 16-year-old son. I essentially manage his care team. And what I find, even to this day, is that as carers, we don't get invested in. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is that, you know, if I was working for an employer, I would have a line manager, I would have regular supervision, I would have a personal development plan. As a worker, as a carer, I don't get any of that. So 2 years in, I've been a care manager for the last nearly 8 years. And so 2 years into that, after managing for a very emotional place, as you can appreciate when you've got carers coming into the home, looking after your loved one, you want to make sure that they're doing a good job and emotionally they're well and stable. So I was managing from an emotional perspective.
Yeah.
And 2 years in, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I was too emotionally involved in the workforce, listened to all their problems and stresses, and thought, I can't do this anymore. I need a coach in my life. Now, back then, so we're talking 4 years ago, coaching, I've never really come across coaching, and I'm not quite sure why I thought I need a coach in my life, but what I knew it was that I needed somebody who was outside of my immediate situation who could help me become a more effective manager. And so I met my coach, Gary, who still coaches me to this day. And I have to say that as a result of being coached personally, I am a more effective manager. So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is I'm no longer get emotionally involved with my workforce. I am certainly more confident in my role as a manager. I am more, so I used to be a very yes manager, so any requests that they had, I used to go, oh yeah, no problem, thinking that doesn't work. So when the care team asks me for anything now, depending on what it is, will depend on my response. Often I might say, you know, I need to think about that. I'll let you know the answer. So I've become more effective. I've become better. I've become more assertive. I've become more confident in my role as a manager, more strategic in terms of how I manage and support the team that look after my son. And I don't know if I'll mention the word assertive as well. And more communicative in terms of how I support the team.
I understand the difficulty when it's someone that you love. Right? I really do get that. When you've got people then telling you what is best, telling you how to do things, and they're telling you, where actually what you need to be able to do is to work with them, I guess, and just kind of create, like I said, a teamwork. But it still cannot be easy when it's your son, your loved one, when you're almost disengaging yourself from that kind of role as a mum and as a carer. And I think it's just a really difficult step to have to take, whether it be from a mother or from a daughter, or from a father or from a son. to then go, actually now I've got a job rather than just caring for one of them. It can't be an easy role to do.
It's a kind of very fine line juggling act, in the sense that if one of the carers, for example, I don't make a drug error, how do I respond? Do I respond as manager, or do I respond as a mother? And when things like that happen, I go into mother rage as opposed to manager rage. And there have been times when I've had to kind of step away or step out of the situation, get one of my nurses. So I have a pool of, as well as carers, I have a pool of nurses, registered nurses on my books as well. And then sometimes I have to step back and say, you need to deal with this, because emotionally I'm just, I can't do it.
Taking it away from your situation as a mum, like you said, and being emotionally involved, what do you think? Because it's all about sort of helping the caring team that's on your books, and like you said, there is very little support, which is why I understand why you wanted to set up Carers Collective from the beginning. So how have you seen a difference by being able to signpost them to coaching for themselves in the caring industry?
So, that's a very good question. So about a year ago, it's probably about a year ago, over a year ago, I met a lady called Kerry Seymour through another networking membership that I'm involved with. And when you have a one-to-one with somebody, you go, wow, you come away from that one-to-one and go, where do I? Now I'm having managed for as long as I have, I'm very good at kind of weeding out skills and abilities and, how can I utilise you? And so when I met with Kerry, who's a solution-focused hypnotherapist, we then kind of sat down and thought, well, how can we support carers? So Kerry herself was a carer for her mother, and so what we decided to do was, I had a couple of one-to-ones with Kerry, and then what we decided to do was we were going to establish and create groups. So instead of doing one-to-one coaching, we decided that actually, let's try a group format. So our groups, so what I wanted was for other carers, knowing that they're stressed, overwhelmed, multitask, have to communicate and liaise with multiple professionals, I thought, well, I want other carers to experience what I've experienced. So the difference is that there's a group of 6 carers that essentially go through so Kerry leads the coaching groups. So we used to call the coaching group for carers solution-focused hypnotherapy coaching groups for carers. As you can appreciate, that's a bit of a mouthful. So we then decided, in fact, one of my coaching sessions with Tamsin, she said, well, really, we're not taking them through a hypnotherapy process. Essentially, we're coaching, they're being coached. So how the groups run, essentially, is we start off with asking what's good. What's been good today? Even if it's been a pants day, what's been good? Something.
Positive.
Yeah. So your brain has to go into, instead of thinking about what's been not so good, what's been good. So what's been good? So that's the first question we ask. And what Kerry then encourages the carers to do is to keep a what's been good journal between. Yeah.
We do a small wins, little wins.
Okay.
Exactly the same thing. Yeah.
The second thing that Kerry takes them through is a bit of brain education. So we've got primitive brain and we've got the intellectual brain. I think when we're in the primitive brain, it's like, oh, it's such a bad day. I don't know if anything will ever change. When you're in the intellectual part of the brain, it's a wonderful day. It's fantastic that I'm sitting here with both of you, sharing my experience. So Kerry goes through a bit of brain education. Then the miracle question is asked. So how happy are you on a scale of 1 to 10? And then what Kerry will take you through is, okay, so you're a father 5, say. Then Kerry will say, okay, what do I need to do to change that score from a 5 to a 6? So I then think about, okay, what do I need to do? Do I need to kind of take half a day off and do some self-care? Do I need to go and see a friend? Do I need to go, so what will change my score? And then there's a little bit of guided relaxation at the end of that process. What we've found, we've run 3 groups to date. We're about to run our 4th group, which starts on the 3rd of November. And what we found is it's just made an incredible difference to the lives of carers that we've supported to date.
I think it's amazing. We could do that in our own office.
Yeah.
What would take you from a 5 to a 4? I think that's brilliant.
It's
absolutely brilliant.
I think thinking about, like you said, the small things that matters on that day, because sometimes you have a pretty crap day and that's okay, but you just can find something that you can look positive. You forget about the negative.
I think it's fun. Well, listen, I do have to end the show. I was a bit worried that Charlotte was going to ask a very fundamental question there. I could see it brewing up in her mind, but it has been brilliant, and I think there's a lot around this that we can all learn about. Certainly from my own personal experience, I can really see the connection here. But if you are a carer, and it is a very sensitive subject, so we do completely understand, if you do want to have a chat with Kaddy and you just want to kind of get her point of view or her perspective from her experience, then my advice would be drop her a line, because I know she's incredibly approachable. So Kaddy, how can they get hold of you?
So you can get hold of me through the See No Bands directory.
Obviously.
But you can also get hold of me through Facebook. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. We have a website which is carers-collective carers. No, I've said that wrong. carers-collective.co.uk.
Fantastic, and those details will be on the screen now. So thank you so much to Kaddy for coming into the studio today, and a massive thank you to Charlotte from us, and a massive goodbye. Take care.
Take care, bye-bye.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to Wednesday, aka Hump Day, aka Meet the Member Day. And every week we get one of our members to come on and tell us all about themselves. Now, yesterday we were joined all the way over from the Bahamas, and today we're joined by the lovely Coach Joe Chan, all the way from Singapore. Joe, welcome to Meet the Member. How are you? I hope you're well. How is everything?
Hey, hi everyone. Yes, it's good here, and actually now it's in the afternoon. This is Singapore here at 4 p.m. So yeah, really glad to be here, and things are going on well, good, and excited to be here today.
Brilliant. Well, you got some really good news, right? Because a major event is happening for you on the 15th of January. So tell us a little bit about that.
Oh yeah. Well, basically, after the 15th Jan, I'll be excited to launch into my next phase of my work. I'll be exploring to start up my private practice, focusing on young people and the parents and the families, so providing coaching services for youth and family members as well.
That's brilliant. So that brings us up nicely, right, with your book as well, because even though you're based in Singapore, you do family coaching around the world, right? And obviously you're looking to expand that a little bit more over here in the UK, and we're definitely on board to help you do that. So tell us a little bit about your book, Joe, because it's interactive, it's clever, it's available. So tell us a little bit about it.
So with that, I would like to be able to share my screen. So
yeah.
Hang on, let me just show you. And then you will be able to see. Okay. Right.
There we go.
Good. Okay. So I'm gonna share with you. Okay. So this is my website. Okay. So where my whole tagline and focus is about coaching young people to be better best versions of themselves. So regarding the book that just now was mentioned by Jamie, so I'm going to go down to here. Okay, so this is really the book that was being mentioned. So this is a interactive ebook. Okay, it's an ebook. I do have some limited copies of the hard copy edition. So the book is focusing on how we can work with young people using a very different approach. All right, because most of the people are very used to using a counseling approach, using a very focusing on what's broken and what's the problem and what's the issues. But whereas here I'm using a more coaching approach, so you can actually do that, okay, by focusing on a very, very different approach. So in this book, what I've listed out, what I've mentioned are some ideas and some tools and some perspectives that you can take on. Okay, so if you are interested to find out more, you can check out my website, and then under resources you can actually come to this part here. Yeah,
and it's really good because it's through it's called as it is the youth lens, and it's literally through the eyes of young people and how young people think and how young people interact, and their ways of interacting with the outside world. And it's got exercises in there as well, isn't it? That where adults can kind of do these exercises and just basically learn more about young people in order to understand how they focus and how they interact. Am I correct?
Yeah, I mean there are definitely ideas and tips inside the book. Okay, where I'm sure all of us, you all are very used to hearing about attending workshops, attending seminars, about how to engage with your children or young person. But sometimes what that lacks, right, is really the application aspect. So in this book, I've just put together some of the ideas, very simple, straightforward tools and ideas that you can apply and that you can take away. And then with your young person back at home, you can already start to think about how you can actually put into practice in the different contexts. Yeah.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And I think also important as well, because that a lot of the time, the breakdown, let me stop sharing screen a second. Sure. A lot of the time, the breakdown relationship between adult and teenager is actually a breakdown in communication, and that breakdown is a breakdown of understanding. And young people during their teen years and their adolescent years are going through a whole conundrum of emotions, of hormones, of visions, of views, ideas, concepts, and a lot of adults are disengaged with those concepts and understanding. And actually a little bit of communication, a little bit of an understanding can mean the difference between life in combat or life in harmony, right?
Yeah. Yes, correct.
And this book brings this out, and it really kind of goes into it and says, it shows and starts giving adults instant tips on how to communicate. And I think it's absolutely brilliant. It's a little bit of an instruction manual for young people.
In fact, even yes, for the young persons themselves, if they would like to apply some of these ideas, it's also very, very useful. So the framework or the way that we look at things is useful and applicable for the parents dealing with the young person. It is also very useful and applicable for the young persons themselves applying on their own lives and their situations. So that framework and that approach will be useful, definitely, looking at whatever situation that the young person or the parent is facing.
Yeah, and I think it would be really cool if a young person could take this book and look at how they're living, how they're interacting, and then be able to apply those concepts into daily life to make their life easier. Because it's understanding, right? I mean, we go through so many changes in life, and one of the biggest problems that we come up against is that we don't understand ourselves. We don't understand what we're doing and how that interaction catalysts. So what age group? I mean, what age group is this book sort of aimed at? Is it aimed at teenagers? Is it aimed at under 25? Is it what's the kind of the age group?
Yeah. So when I put this book together, I was thinking of the age of young people between 13 and 25. So teenagers, young adults, that age range, right, where they are really at a place that they are just leaving high school, leaving the school system, and then launching off into the adult world. So it is really targeted at that group of young people.
That's brilliant. Actually, and if someone wants to purchase this, the youth lenses, obviously they can purchase it through your website. They can purchase it through Amazon. How much are they looking to pay, Joe?
So on my website, it is $8.90 USD.
Okay.
Yeah.
$8.90.
Yes.
And that's US dollars, right?
Yes, correct.
Brilliant. Okay. How much does that work out in the UK? About £9?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll go with it's under a tenner, right? It's under a tenner.
Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. Well, listen, if you haven't already looked at the book, check it out. If you're living with, dealing with, working with young people, check out the book. And if you are a young person and you're just you're thinking about your own life and you're looking at how your own concepts work, check out the book, because it's just another insight, and you're never too young or too old to learn a new concept. So speaking of books, let's go on a little bit now about coaching. So obviously you are a coach, you're a qualified coach. You work at the moment in the field of young people. You're looking to set up your own practice working with young people, but you really do concentrate on the relationship between generations, don't you? The young and the adult. Tell us a little bit about how your coaching concept works, Joe.
So when we talk about coaching, we are really talking about focusing on the individual, okay, that is coming into the session, and then the ideas and the issues and the concerns that they bring along with them. So sometimes we kind of know what we want, we kind of know what we hope to achieve, but a lot of times those things are in the haze, right? So we may have some big ideas, we may have some tentative so-called solutions, but we are sometimes just caught in a jam. Okay, so we are really just a bundle of, sometimes can be emotions, sometimes can be thoughts, and then our thinking is basically not straight. So in coaching, how it works is that when we enter into a coaching relationship and a coaching session, the coach will come in to help to facilitate the conversation through questions. Okay, the questions will be kind of like leading and clarifying and helping the individual to be able to sort out, having a sounding board, having a mirror, having somebody to just work out some of these ideas. So at the end of the day, the individual will leave the session with clarity of what they want, okay, clarity of the situation, of their future, and the steps to get there. So it's just like, I'm sure all of us, we have got sports coaches before in our lives, right? Soccer coach, basketball coach, right?
Yeah, I've got several.
So when you go for a training session, when you meet your coach, what are you trying to do? You're trying to perfect your skill. You're trying to up your level in the game. So that's the same idea. When we talk about life, when we talk about things that we face, how often do we bring these things to a life coach? I think most of us don't. Okay.
Yeah.
So my encouragement to you guys is that give yourself a chance, okay, to work with a coach the same way that you give yourself a chance to work with a sports coach. You can do better when you work with a coach. Of course, you can choose to do it on your own, but we all know that performance is definitely something that you will want to look at the end of the day. You don't want to be just mediocre, you don't want to be average, right? So yeah, working with a coach brings you there.
And you know what? You're absolutely right. So we work. Obviously, I'm an adaptive athlete, so I work with several coaches in several different disciplines. And one of the things that our coach does is look from the inside in, and then sometimes even records. Like if I'm doing a shot, they'll record my shooting arm, and then they'll play that back to me so that I can then look at it from an outside perspective. And actually, sometimes looking at it from an outside perspective is priceless. And we work with a business coach. So on the same principle, we work with a business coach, and he looks at our business from an outside perspective. And sometimes it's so nice just to have a sounding board and just go, well, actually, Matt, his name's Matt, Matt Priest, he's from the Business Doctors. And we always say, like, Matt, what about this? And you go, well, I don't like that idea for this reason, or I love that idea because of this. And it's just about, sometimes it's just about the old saying, chewing the fat and throwing in ideas and just going, well, this is how I feel, or this is what I'm thinking. And sometimes it's a case of, business is tough, right? And sometimes it's a case of just speaking to someone and going, I'm really struggling right now. And I'm really having difficulty. And it's about speaking to someone that is on my wavelength to understand my business and understand how I'm going. And it's exactly the same for life. It is so hard for young people now. And I think it's harder because of there used to be a time when they left all the rubbish at the door at the end of the day. But now that comes into their lives with them within social media and everything else. And actually working with someone like yourself, and I think working with someone like yourself from a different culture and a different country it just offers a different perspective for young people to try and understand the world that they're in, to really also understand that actually it's not just you, and it's not just you and your friends. The issues that they're suffering and the conditions that they're having to go through and the lives that they're living is actually very similar worldwide. And sometimes it's nice for them to have an understanding that it's not just them in their little world, right?
Yes. Yeah. Definitely this perspective where, coming from another part of the world where I'm from. So just in case those of you who have missed, I'm from Singapore. So in case you are not aware where Singapore is at the tip of the Southeast Asia. It's a little tiny island at way, tiny little dot, which is compared to you guys. Yeah. So that's where I'm from. And having a international perspective, cross-cultural inputs will be definitely helpful and useful. And I'm happy to share, some of my perspectives as well.
That's brilliant. And that is for anyone who's listening in, right? They can actually get involved. So you've got a course running at the moment. You're going to be doing a bit more promotion about it now through the social media platform. But you've got a course running, a tester session. So tell us a little bit about how the tester session works.
Yep. So I was just thinking that, coaching, this concept, this idea may be like really, really foreign to many of you, or maybe, in fact, most of you. So I was just thinking that, hey, instead of just trying to tell you what it is, I would like to invite you to a session, okay, where you come to a session with me just for 30 minutes, okay, just 30 minutes of your time, experience what is it, and then, with me coaching you through whatever concern or whatever point that you bring to the session that you want to see better, that you want to work on, expect something to happen within this 30 minutes. So I know I'm giving a very, very, very big promise within 30 minutes, right? But it's really for you to experience and try it for yourself. Yeah, because actually that's how coaching works. It has to work there and then. It cannot be dragging on for sessions and sessions and sessions. The coachee has to walk away from every session taking away something. Yeah. So that's my guarantee in that sense, 30 minutes. Yeah. So what I'm also planning to do is I'm planning to set aside every Sunday, every Sunday a fixed time. So if you go into Cinobounce, you just check out the events page. You can just go in there, book a session, okay, just for 30 minutes. Yeah, and then bring a concern, bring a topic, and then I'll coach you through the process. And I'm just looking at as well, for this taster session, I'm just looking at a £5 kind of commitment fee. Okay, so what is this £5 for in the first place? Is really to have a commitment from you and also from me. Yeah, so where we put aside our time, we put aside to come together and work on these things and just see for yourself what you can take out of this.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. Listen, Joe, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. And you know, we've worked together now for just over a year, and we've really got to know each other. And it's, I think you're absolutely brilliant. And I've learned quite a bit about Singapore, actually. I didn't realize that Singapore was an English-speaking country. I didn't realize that, you know, there was so much value in that country as well, and especially with the knowledge that you've got. I mean, you've been working with young people for many years, and I know that you've got a lot of experience in this subject, and you can literally tell by your calming nature how chilled out you are, which I think has got to be a quality when you work with young people. An age range I absolutely love is, you know, the 16 to 25, because they've just got so much going on. Joe, if anyone wants to find out more about you, obviously they can find you through the best business directory in the world, which is, of course, See No Bounds. But where else can they find you, mate?
You can just come to my website, www.coachjoechan.com, right? So, or if not, you can go to the social media. You can just search out my handlers at Coach Joe Chan as well. So
fantastic, brilliant. Well, Joe, have a lovely evening, because it's evening for you over there. We're just kickstarting the day over here. You have a lovely evening over there, and we will see you right back here very soon with another phenomenal show. Charlotte will be back later with our story time, and we will be here next week with another fantastic member. So from myself and Joe, thank you so much for tuning in. You take care, and we'll see you back soon. Take care. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
The value of See No Bounds is fantastic. The business directory is really useful. In fact, I've used it today because I needed to find something very quickly. So quickly went online, straight to the business directory, found what I wanted in about 30 seconds. So really useful. I would recommend See No Bounds for every business, whether you're a small business just starting out or you're established and you've been going for quite a while. You'll find something that will help you. The support that Charlotte and Jamie have given me has been amazing. My business last year, I had to stop basically because I'm very face-to-face in venues, and they gave me a platform in order for me to do some online cooking with them, which was fantastic, and actually started me doing some Zoom ones for my classes as well.